Well, one thing about your research that's very exciting to me is it just seems like over the last couple of decades, the rise of autoimmune diseases, and especially those having to do with our digestive system, are on the rise. I suffer from it myself, and they really don't know if I have Crohn's or something else. So when you're doing the type of research that you do, to me, it's very interesting because clearly much of the immunological system and these microbiota or microorganisms, their meeting place is in the gut. So it seems like the gut is of utmost importance in this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really true. And there's a tremendous amount of research that links autoimmune disorders of various kinds, not just bowel-related ones, but rheumatoid arthritis and many others, that links them, lupus, CFS, all sorts of things to the microbiome. And one of our goals is to come out with interesting, so that's sort of an early target for us, is to look at autoimmune disorders and see what we can do to create better diagnostics and hopefully better therapeutics. Because a lot of these, Crohn's is a great example, they're diagnosis by exclusion. They just try various stuff and see if it works, and if it works, then it's Crohn's disease. And there's really no really good way of figuring out what's going on. In the meantime, people are suffering a lot. So we really want to, that's a very important connection for us to explore.
And then I'm also hearing that it may be related to autism. And previously you mentioned that it could be linked to eating disorders. So I mean, this is
an interesting one. Like there's sort of a lot of connections. That was one that kind of came from outside. It was a researcher who studies that connection, and she said, "Can you help me get a patient population together?" We said yes, because we want to do more research and encourage more research. That was one where that wasn't a target of ours. Someone kind of came to us with that. And we're very glad that they did. Autism is a really interesting one. There are known connections between the microbiome and autism, known sort of gut symptoms related to autism. And there's a suspicion that those gut symptoms might be related in some reliable way that could perhaps do things like determine which type of types of autism based on gut microbiomes, or maybe even try to get the cause of the thing that we call autism, which is probably many different disorders that have similar appearance from a symptomatic perspective, but might be very different. So there's a lot of interesting research there, and you can kind of divide this into two categories. There are health conditions where you know that you have them, and the question is what caused them and how do you treat them, and you sort of put autism in that category. And then there are other conditions like Crohn's disease where you're just trying to figure out exactly what you have and trying to use the microbiome to better target, to figure out what you have and what you don't have, because there are known treatments. It's just not known whether it works for you.
Another thing that's interesting, I mean, forever we've talked about, you are what you eat, and certain foods are great at healing your body for certain things. So who knows, perhaps what you will discover is what we already seem to think, which is certain foods or probiotics help make your guts healthier, which in turn make you healthier. So in the case of autism or these autoimmune diseases, perhaps there is a way to repopulate the gut with the right kind of flora and fauna that we need through what we eat.
There it is, and I think there's that community in particular. There are a lot of very well-educated parents, very affluent parents who have autistic children that are just at their wits' end and trying to find anything. So we talked with a lot of user groups that just have, they just want to try a lot of different things and be able to measure it. The cool thing about uBiome is they can then say, okay, we're all trying this experiment together. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we're going to cut gluten out of our child's diet, or we're going to cut out sugar, or we're going to try various things, and you can kind of see how the microbiome changes. Otherwise, especially when it's not your own body, when it's your child's body, you're not sure what you'd notice. Maybe a behavior change, you're not really sure. So there's definitely people are using it to just sort of do health and wellness related interventions like dietary changes and see how it shows up in the microbiome as sort of an objective measure of what's going on.